to technical limitations, but also due to the prestige role traditionally accorded to horse-mounted cavalry. Still, the Armored Corps was born at the Battle of the Somme, where the first tanks were pitched, primarily to overcome the tactical, operational and strategic stalemate impinged by the static nature of machine gun-oriented trench warfare. But it was in World War II where developments in both design and tactics produced important concepts of armored warfare which persist to this day. The Soviet Union introduced the T-34, one of the best tanks in service throughout the war and a forerunner to the main battle tank, which today is the backbone of all modern armies. Germany introduced Blitzkrieg, a strategy which made use of massed concentrations of tanks supported by artillery and air power to break through the enemy front and accomplish objectives. The tank effectively changed the future of warfare. It has come to symbolize the terror of the oppressor. The glee of liberation and the grace of defeat. Pakistan's armored battle record has been mixed.
पाकिस्तान के 10 करोड़ अवाम जिनके दिल की धड़कन में ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह मुहम्मद रसूलुल्लाह की सदा गूंज रही है, उस वक्त तक चैन से नहीं बैठेंगे जब तक दुश्मन की तोपे हमेशा के लिए खामोश न हो जाएं। हिंदुस्तानी हुक्मरान शायद अभी नहीं जानते कि उन्होंने किस कौम को ललकारा है।
In the 1965 war, the army fielded several regiments in many pitched battles. But two battles which served as a yardstick of the Armored Corps' abilities and inabilities are Chavinda and Khem-Karan. Chavinda, which has the record of being the second biggest tank battle in history, in which outnumbered Pakistani tanks, mostly M47 and M48 patterns, repulsed attacking Indian forces in the Sialkot sector. Not expecting an attack, just one single Pakistani armored regiment, the 25 Cavalry, managed to hold off the entire Indian 1st Armored Division. In fact, Pakistan managed to regroup when its 6th Armored Division counterattacked and drove the Indians back. But attack battle as important that Pakistan was on the offensive did not end with total victory. This was the Battle of Khem-Karan, or as the Indians remember it, Asal Uttar. The Pakistan army had successfully managed to conquer the Indian town of Khem-Karan, but further attacks were checked. A redeployment of its 1st Armored Division to Sialkot resulted in losses. The same patterns which had outperformed the Indians in Chavinda were stopped short at Khem-Karan. In effect, both the Indian and Pakistani armies did not show any great facility in the use of armored formations in offensive operations in the 65 war. Whether it was the Pakistani 1st Armored Division being stopped short at Khem-Karan or the Indian 1st Armored Division throttled at Chavinda, both sides proved to be better performers with smaller forces in a defensive role. Compared to the large, bulky formations the Pakistanis used in Khem-Karan, the quick, rapid tank deployments in Chavinda were much more effective. The three traditional factors determining a tank's effectiveness in battle are its firepower, protection, and mobility. Firepower is the ability of a tank to identify, engage, and destroy a target. Protection is the tank's ability to resist being detected, engaged, and disabled or destroyed by enemy fire. Mobility includes tactical movement over the battlefield as well as strategic mobility, the ability of the tank to be transported by road, rail, sea, or air. Here's a bit of trivia for you. Tank was the code name for the top secret British military project started early in the 20th century, which would change the way ground battles are conducted. Tank was a new vehicle for providing infantry support in ground battle situations, and since that day the tank has changed the way ground battles are conducted on planet Earth. With me is Major Hasnain Haider from the Armored Corps Center.
Yes,
Major, thanks for being with us.
Welcome.
And you are going to run us through Pakistan's arsenal of different tanks historically and now in the current scenario. So this here is the T-59 and this here is the T-59 M2.
M2.
Right, now tell us a little bit about both tanks.
This one, the first tank, this was the first MBT the Pakistan Army had.
And MBT is short for main battle
Main
tank.
battle tank.
Right.
It is called the T-59. It's a Chinese-built tank which was inducted prior to the 1965 war. This has seen both the wars, the 1965 and the 71 war. It has got a 100 mm cannon and a 520 horsepower engine and 8 inches of raw cast iron on it. It's a very robust tank and many generations of the cavalrymen have trained and fought on this one.
Right, and this is an
This is an upgraded version. It is called the T-59 M2.
Right.
The upgradation has come in the engine. It's got a bigger engine. It has got a 105 millimeters main gun.
Right.
And plus it has got hydraulically operated systems and stabilized firing systems.
Now what sort of terrain are these tanks familiar with and capable
These are
of operating?
medium main battle tanks, and they are mostly used in the semi-hilly or the plain terrain where we employ these tanks.
So I would say that the Punjab
Yes.
is a good place
Yes,
for these
yes,
tanks to be
yes,
deployed in
yes.
Because of its terrain.
Yes.
Okay, now let's
Then we move on, and this is the latest variant of the T-59 family, and it has been named as Al-Zarar by Pakistan Army.
Al-Zarar. How fitting.
Yes, this is basically mounted on the same T-59 chassis, but it has got a much bigger engine, which is almost 730 horsepower. It has got a 125 millimeter main gun. There's add-on armor on it, as you can see, and the gadgetry inside is totally changed.
Now I've read that it has these ERAs,
The explosive reactive armor plates.
Right.
Now this is one of the latest defense against anti-tank guided missiles, which is installed on other MBTs of the world.
Right.
It features some of the latest equipment and gadgetries which the modern tanks and other armies also have. And this is slowly and steadily it will take over the older versions which I have just shown you.
So are the older versions which you just showed us, are those still operational in the Pakistan
Yes,
Army?
very much they are.
But aren't they
still
outdated
operational.
considering
No.
they've been around since the 60s?
They say that there is a very famous English proverbial saying, it's not the rifle but the man behind it. The training compensates for any inferiority in equipment as such. And our people are trained to the best level to fight under all situations and all circumstances.
But considering what perhaps other countries possess, the weapons which other countries possess, how do these weapons measure up
There
to
was
that?
a time when M1A1s were